This is Aaron, and I've got a video today on French Tarot and something that beginners often ask for, which is some tips on how to tell if your hand is strong enough to bid to be the taker and play as the soloist against the others. So if you're watching this video, I'm assuming that you already know basically how to play. If not, there'll be a link up top. You can watch my tutorial. Now, often with beginners, you look at all of your hands and maybe you already more or less know how to play, but it's still trying to work out, is this hand strong enough to play with? Or is this hand strong enough to play with? So what am I actually looking for? Okay, well, basically there's four aspects to what makes a strong hand. Firstly, how many of the bulls do you have? The 21, the 1, and the excuse. How many other trumps you've got, and also how many of them are high. How many court cards, so the kings and queens particularly. And also, do you have any suits that are particularly long or particularly short? All of that will affect it. So firstly, with the bulls, obviously, if you've got the 21, you've already got a pretty strong hand. Obviously, it can't be beaten. It's going to bring in points, but also it lowers the target that you're going for. So overall, it's the most useful card you can have. Also, if you're playing 5-player, if you've got the 21, you hope that your partner might have Le Petit if you don't hold it. So you play the 21, they play the 1, and you're safe. If you've got the Excuse, the full, that's also pretty good. It's worth a lot of points. It lowers the target you got to get to. And if you're a good player, you can use it to mess up your opponent's strategies. If you've got the 1, that can be good, as long as you've got lots of other trumps with it. Problem with the 1 is it's very easy for it to get trumped by the other players. If they've got more trumps than you, you can lose it very easily. So if you look at this hand here, maybe this is a risky one to bid on. You've only got 4 trumps there with the Le Petit. There's a good chance it might get lost. I mean, you got the King of Spades. I might wait and hope someone else takes and calls the King of Spades. Then you hope they play the 21 and you can save Le Petit under that. Now, in terms of the other trumps, having lots of trumps is really good, but really it's helpful to have lots of high ones. Often a small number of high ones is better than having a large number of low ones. And it's particularly good if you've got a lot of high ones that make a sequence like 18, 19, 20 or something like that. Besides the simple fact that having high trumps means you can probably win more tricks, a good player will use their sequence of high trumps to try and catch the opponent's petit, the trump number 1. You just keep playing your high trumps downwards in sequence, knowing that they can't be beaten until eventually you suck the petit out of whoever is holding it. Now, in terms of the court cards, it's great if you can have the king and the queen of the same suit. So if you've already got both of them, fantastic. If you've got at least the king of a suit without the queen, that's still pretty good. If you've got the queen without the king, that's a little bit risky, but in 5-player, this is often how you pick who you want to be your partner. You pick a suit that you hold the queen, and you call the king of the same suit, and then you play together, and it means you're holding both of those high-value cards. Whilst the knight and the jack are also worth some points, they don't make as big a difference in assessing your hand as the king and the queen do. Finally, the length relatively of the other 4 suits makes a bit of a difference. If you've got one really long suit, that can be really useful because you just keep playing it over and over again, force all of your opponents to waste all their trumps on it. Having a short suit or a suit that you're totally voiding can be great because if there's a suit that you're voiding, someone else leads it, maybe one of the opponents puts a king on it, you can trump it. If you've got a suit that you start completely voiding, which in French is called a coupe franche, this is really useful for that reason. People won't necessarily expect you to be voiding it, so someone chucks a king on it thinking it'll be safe and then you trump it. So this might be an interesting hand to play because you've got quite a few trumps, including a few high ones. You don't have Le Petit, but you'd play the 21 early. Hope that your partner, if you're playing 5-player, has Le Petit, and then they'd play it under it and save it. And then you've got a fairly long suit of diamonds there. You could keep playing diamonds. Once the others have run out, you'll suck out all their trumps, and then hopefully you'll be the last one with trumps in your hand. So putting all of these factors together, in France, when they play serious tournament tarot, they tend to play 4-player, and there's this sort of formula that people use, particularly when they're learning, to assess how strong their hand is. And you give certain cards in your hand a certain point value, you add them all up and see what you come out with, and that tells you what to bid, petite or garde or whatever. First thing is, if you hold the 21, that's worth 10 points. If you hold Le Petit, it's worth 0 points if it's one of only 4 trumps or less, but if it's one of 5 or more, it's worth 6. One of 6, it's worth 7. If it's one of 7 or more, then it's worth 8 points. If you've got L'Excuse, it's worth 7 points. Then you give yourself 2 points for every other trump you've got. And then for every high trump, so 16 or upwards, you give yourself a bonus 2 points on top of what you've already given them, and then an extra point on top of that for each that make a series of high trumps, such as 18, 19, 20, as we said before. The court cards depends if you've got a marriage, which is both the king and queen, or just the king, or just the queen, or a knight, or a jack. So if you've got the king and queen of the same suit, give yourself 10 points. If you've got the king but no queen, 6, queen but no king, 3, the knight, give yourself 2, and the jack, give yourself 1. Then it's easier to assess the strength of your hand from long suits first. If you've got a suit with more than 4 cards in it, give yourself 5 points, and then an extra 2 points for every additional card in the suit beyond that. Short ones are harder to evaluate because when you pick up Le Chien, that might mess up your ability to short suit yourself. If you're playing Garçon or Garde Contre, then you can. In that case, because you're not going to use the cards from the Chien, a void will be worth 5 points in a suit, a single turn will be 3, and a double turn will be worth 1. So we add all of that up, and if you've got a total of at least 40 points in your hand, you can probably safely bid a petite or a prise, and then 56 points you can probably bid a garde, 71 points you can probably bid garçon, or if you've got 81 points there, you can probably safely bid Garde Contre. Now, this rule of thumb was thought up basically to talk about 4-player tarot when you're going to be playing 1 versus 3 if you're the taker. But a lot of the principles in it still work in 5-player. That what is useful in 4-player will still usually be useful in your hand in 5-player. The one thing I'll say about 5-player though is it's actually a little bit easier. You can be a little bit, you can take some risks with the bidding because you've got someone to help you, and also there's only 3 cards in the Chien, so it's actually a little bit easier to even bid Garçon or Garde Contre and make yourself some more points. But overall, it's like anything. Honestly, I think the best tip sometimes is just to jump on boardgamearena.com or somewhere like that where you can just sort of play for fun and just try it out, bid and see what happens. Or get the phone app from Eriod Soft, which is also really great because you can play on your phone against the AI and it'll give you tips, and just bid and see what happens. You start to develop a feel of, you can kind of glance at your hand and work out how strong it is without necessarily doing a massive amount of maths in one go. Anyway, that's all for today. If you want to drop me a line, learntarotcardgames@gmail.com. If you want to join the Traditional Card Games Discord, send me a message as well and I'll send you the link. And have fun.